I also don't trust anything YouTube lawyers have to say anymore. These people have been so brain broken about my own civil case, and then I've seen them fall other cases. I think that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard did a great disservice to the world by doing anything legally against each other, because they spawned a whole generation of legally retarded dipshits that passed the bar that now do YouTube channels that got way more popular than they ever should have. Holy fuck.
A lot of people want to act like they're lawyers these days, okay? They do. What is a civil case? Spoiler alert, guys. I lost a civil case. I did. Hey, I did. And we're going to talk about, I lost. It's true. And we're going to talk about everything. What is a civil case? So a civil case is essentially a vibe check to where they see, how were this guy's vibes? Unfortunately, I'm fucking retarded. Yeah, L for me. I'm fucking retarded, and I run my mouth way too much. One thing that I've learned, and throughout this slideshow, there's going to be consistent change. I am going to start tweeting 95% less. I uninstalled Twitter on my phone, and I'm not going to tweet for 1 week. Yep, because a civil case isn't determined by proof. It's determined by vibes. And usually the way that court cases work for like criminal cases is you need to have proof to prove that someone's guilty. But in a civil case, I needed proof to prove that I'm innocent, which was hard and I'm a bastard. So essentially, the court decided that I'm a vibe rapist. And my vibes were fucking terrible. So the thing that I learned is, Tectone, stop fucking tweeting. Because my vibes are fucking terrible. And I don't think I've ever been on Twitter and done something where I was like, you know what? I'm going to tweet something that's positively going to affect my life. But yeah, the vibes are fucking off. The vibes are off. All right, so I lost the vibe check. It's true. Next up.
So Just Pearly Things used to say stuff like this a lot as well, okay? So people bring this up that civil cases aren't real. So in a criminal case, when the state is depriving you of your life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, whatever, the state is taking rights away from you, right? They're kidnapping you, placing you in a jail, whatever. The state is coming after you, okay? Criminal cases require you to either a judge, if you do a judge trial, or jury in a jury trial, require you to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. There's not a particular percentage, but people say 95, 99%, that there cannot be a reasonable doubt as to whether or not you committed the crimes that the prosecutor is charging you with, that you're accused of, okay? In a civil case is not generally coming after you to jail you. I don't think you can ever be jailed as a result of a civil case. You can be fined or have to pay money to the other side, or whatever tort law you're talking about, or whatever contract you violated that you have to make whole. But in a civil case, it's a 51%, basically. They call it a balance of probabilities, or more likely than not, or there's the balance of probabilities is what they say in the UK. There's another word in the US, or term. I always forget this in the US. But it's more likely than not, basically, that you did the thing. Preponderance of evidence is what they say in the US, okay? So when he's saying vibe check, I'm guessing somebody told him this, like, bro, don't worry, it's just a civil case. They're easier to lose than criminal cases, which is true, but it doesn't just mean it's just a vibe check, right? It's just whatever. Like, it's a lot easier to prove, of course, than a criminal case, but the penalties are not including, like, jail time and everything. Do you think this is how LegalMindset explained it to him? Possibly. So one is because I think this comment is really stupid. It's very annoying to me. It underplays our civil litigation system. Number one. Okay. Number two, I haven't watched this. Does anybody have a link to this full Tectone video? Because somebody told me that he cites me as like, I had good conversations with this guy or something. And this is basically like he's citing this as supportive evidence. And if that's true, that's very fucking annoying to me, because now I feel even worse for having a civil conversation with him if he's using it to build his credibility or something, especially because this fucker has me blocked on X and I have no idea even why. Maybe because I made that one AI picture of me behind a tree. I don't know if anybody... Go to his channel on his live section. That is about something else, not this topic. Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe that's not as important. The third thing I heard was that the LegalMindset guy was hardcore sweeping for like every single thing this guy did. Wait, LegalMindset said it was a vibes check. Is there a link to the LegalMindset coverage of this? because that would be nice to see. I'm just curious what all he said about it as well.
The reason why that was is because I was not able to defend them. The reason why that was to say, I have had political opinions that I have changed. And the reason why that was is because I was not able to defend them. I was not able to explain why. And I found out that I didn't think that they were too good. Now, for example, Donald Trump. I used to think that the tariffs were an amazing thing. But then I had a conversation with Destiny. And since then I realized, well, they're actually not as good as I thought they were. And so now I'm more so on the fence. But, you know, when people present me information, I'm...
Oh, okay. That's not a bad statement. Okay. Let's see. And then there was this. What does anybody have the original video this is linked from? Because 11-second clip.
Yeah, okay, whatever. He could get you into collaborations. And obviously he was working with Mythic Talent, and he could get you into Mythic Talent. I as somebody who works for Mythic, I think Mythic gets you into Mythic.
3 hours and 10 minutes. Oh boy. And it's part 2? Oh, we can just look at his fast facts. I don't know if I can go.
The Tectone files. Today we get into a drop of documents regarding Tectone and his ongoing...
He actually cries while reviewing this Tectone trial stuff on stream. What?
Legal saga with his former ex. We're going to get that today on the Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney living over here in Asia. And this is a fast facts, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. So let's jump right into the Tectone files. And once again, this is regarding streamer Tectone, who is today our defendant in this case, the Eggman. Now, to be a real quick disclosure, of course, I do know Tectone. He's an individual I'm familiar with, so you could say I have a bias towards Tectone. But that being said, I'm going to try to do this as neutrally as possible and present both sides of the argument. Because remember, there are always two sides of the argument, and particularly in this post-debt Me Too era, we have to consider all of the factors before we just go out and cancel someone for these allegations. And then we've got the plaintiff Pikachu, who is a streamer here. And
how can you and Hassan be the biggest online leftists that spend so much time on air talking about each other and never just do a quick online debate on your biggest disagreements, like who's too scared and why? Hassan is too scared because he doesn't actually have the ability to defend anything he says, and he just has to create a caricature of me to his audience, and he only cares about building clout and shit. Doesn't care about any of the ideas or do any research or know what he's talking about, generally speaking.
And we're going to be getting into their relationship. The important thing to notice being the defendant, Tectone and Pikachu, is they dated, right? So these are exes. They had a relationship that is now over. And then you have filings and accusations coming from this, mainly from a drop by Miskiff, who is clearly trying to put information out there that leads people away from his own case at this point. That seems to be his general legal strategy. So let's get into this. This is Pikachu.
I don't know how Miskiff dropping things to lead people away from his own case is a legal strategy. I think that's like a PR strategy related to his lawsuit. I don't know if lawyers say legal strategy when you're talking about a PR strategy, but I also don't trust anything YouTube lawyers have to say anymore. These people have been so brain broken about my own civil case, and then I've seen them fault other cases. I think that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard did a great disservice to the world by doing anything legally against each other, because they spawned a whole generation of legally retarded dipshits that passed the bar that now do YouTube channels that got way more popular than they ever should have. Holy fuck.
That seems to be his general legal strategy. So let's get into this. This is Pikachu versus Tectone over abuse allegations, both emotional and sexual in nature. There were filings both in the civil context and the criminal context. Now, the civil context that was taken all the way to a conclusion, but the criminal context, mind you, was a police report which was dropped. So that is very, very critical here, that there are no criminal conclusions regarding Tectone. And that's something that needs to be very, very much reinforced throughout all of this. Now, Tectone did deny the allegations of Pikachu, including her of defamation and filing counter evidence. But Tectone ultimately lost his civil suit and was ruled liable for SA, even despite the fact that the criminal case was dropped by police. And this had consequences for Tectone because Mythic, the talent agency, which is also my talent agency, dropped him over this. Now, to be very clear about this, once again, with Mythic, I've made it very clear with them that I would be covering issues regardless of how things look. And with Mythic, they have a right, and I can say this based on my own contract, to drop you based on brand appearance, etc. And many advertisers are gun shy. So even if the allegations are just allegations, they can drop you. Think about Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, look, and with Mythic, they have a right, and I can say this based on my own contract, to drop you based on brand appearance, etc. And many advertisers are gun shy. So even if the allegations are just allegations, they can drop you. Think about Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp.
True, but they're not dropping it because of allegations. It sounds like they're dropping it because he lost the civil case, right? So
Johnny Depp was dropped by Disney, dropped by other advertisers, simply because of allegations that were not yet proven in court. So this is something that Mythic dropping him doesn't make him per se guilty of anything at this point.
It makes him, it's because of the conclusion that he lost his civil case, right? There might not have been a crime that was prosecuted, but...
Other person, by the way, that's involved in this, and we're going to get into this, is Freem, who is a former marriage partner of Tectone. So while she's not necessarily a plaintiff, Freem's information is very much relevant to this analysis. So let's get into the kind of some background here before we get into a word. But actually, before we do that, let's get into a word from today's video sponsor. And now a word from today's sponsor of Data Broke Beat Me. below. Now, we live in a world that's post-Depp versus Amber Heard, and this is actually, despite what people say, it wasn't Disney, it wasn't Doki, it wasn't anything else that really blew me up. It was Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp.
Ugh, I can't believe he brings this up. God, what a horrible court case for YouTube lawyers to all of these terrible fucking people that blew up on this.
Covering this case. And in this case, LawTube really blew up because we started covering this neutrally, whereas the whole world in that Me Too era was pro Amber Heard, was pro saying believe all women, believe what she says. And it turns out that Johnny Depp was indeed wronged here and he was vindicated in court. And so when I analyze the Tectone case, I look at this as we are in a post-Depp world. We need to live in a world where we don't believe my dog stepped on a bee and we don't believe any tall tale that came out of what Amber Heard's mouth or anybody else says, because we've seen cases out there in the US that I've covered on this channel, like Trevor Bauer, like the Con case at Princeton, where we have people that are absolutely destroyed. Their careers are just absolutely wrecked based on pure allegation. So let's get into what happened. So all the evidence I'm treating at a higher degree.
I would have to re-look into this. I just Googled this, but I think, wasn't it Johnny Depp won one lawsuit and Amber Heard won the other, right? It was 1-1. So I don't know if, I thought Heard won one of them, the first one, and then Johnny Depp won the second one. But this is, I would have to go back. I'd not say go back. I haven't done this before. I always said I wanted to go back and like read through and listen through the whole Amber Heard and Johnny Depp thing because, so much. I just don't trust anything that gets cited by people unless I've read the underlying legal stuff myself, because I don't trust any of these fucking YouTube lawyers.
Just absolutely wrecked based on pure allegation. So let's get into what happened. So
Heard didn't win any. It was the son that won in the UK. Okay.
All the evidence I'm treating at a higher degree if it's been filed with the court, not just online. But a lot of this stuff that's been filed, that's online, was indeed filed with the court. And every individual case has to be evaluated for its impact. So what does a civil case mean? Well, what that means is there's a standard of proof that's lower. It's preponderance of the evidence, 51%, you could say, instead of reasonable beyond a reasonable doubt, which is 99.9% of the time. And such, or up in the upper percentages of happening. But Tectone hasn't been convicted of anything criminal. So for all those out there, and I'm looking at you, all the pikers of the world and everybody else who's throwing the names out there, calling him the R word, and I can't say that because of YouTube, is not actually okay. He hasn't been convicted. That is still defamatory to label him as a criminal when he is indeed not been convicted criminally.
Is that defamatory? Is rapist just a statement on somebody's criminal convictions? If you can't have the opinion that somebody's a rapist without them being, if you say he was convicted of rape, sure, but I'm pretty sure you can have the opinion that somebody's a rapist without a criminal conviction of it.
So one thing, looking at the background here, once again, part one, just looking at the background, Travis County in Texas has a huge pro-female bias in terms of outcomes. Women who file tend to get very, very, very favorable outcomes in Texas, in Travis County. And there's a potential activist judge who had
So this first statement is not supported by the evidence. Whether that's true or false, I don't know. When he says women that file have a high tendency to win, that could obviously be confounded by the fact that women that file probably have pretty strong cases if they're willing to file, right? This is like the child support argument. Like 90% of dads pay child support to the moms, but like in cases where the dads contest custody, they win like 85% of the cases. Well, probably because when the dads are filing, they have a really high claim, or they've exceeded probably a big bar for winning custody, right? So this first statement is not supported by the evidence, although Legal Mindset is both retarded and biased. So he's legally and mathematically retarded, and he's super biased because he fucking hates women if they can speak English. So this is probably all playing into this.
Who file tend to get very, very, very favorable outcomes in Texas, in Travis County. And there's a potential activist judge who had a DV bias, who had a history of that did not recuse themselves in this case. Super relevant. Also
I don't know if there's a federal or state case. For federal judges to recuse themselves from cases requires a really big, there has to be a big, you can't just be like, oh, they're biased, or they recuse themselves. Like federal judges very rarely recuse themselves. There has to be a huge conflict of interest there. I don't know about lower courts. I imagine, or state courts. I imagine for state courts, it's probably similar. You wouldn't just randomly recuse yourself. I don't know what he means by activist judge either, and that maybe he just gave decisions that he disagrees with. I don't know, but
jury pool that's biased towards the plaintiff with a skewed heavy female bias, everybody in the courtroom being female, that can tend to bias things when it comes to these outcomes. The other thing, which is different from the Miskiff situation, is we haven't seen abusive communications. In fact, all the communications I reviewed show Tectone as a reasonable, kind guy. He approached Pikachu as a friend, not even as a person trying to slide into the DMs, which, number one, is not a crime, but number two, that wasn't how he approached it. He approached this very innocently after he was betrayed in a relationship, which Freem cheated on him with somebody who was working at the same company, so a work partner, right? So after he was cheated on, he ends up engaging in this relationship, which once again, not smart to rebound, not smart to work with somebody, engage with somebody who's perhaps a streamer right afterwards. Dating streamers, always not good, right? Two streamers dating, always not good. But we haven't seen those abusive communications. In fact, when I review the communications, they look much more supportive. And by the way, I'm very, very, very cognizant as someone who struggles with depression myself. This is something I'm very, very sympathetic to for both parts, right? Because Tectone has his own mental health stuff and Pikachu has her own mental health stuff. But when I read this communications between the two, it doesn't seem like this is abusive. So Pikachu says right here, I have something called PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, that I'm being treated for. So I'm in a lot of physical pain and my emotions are really bad. Like just feeling so depressed I don't even want to. So on stream today was really, really rough. I'm trying to be tough through it all, but it's not easy when it feels like the end of the world. So please be patient with me. The doctor said it could be 6 months for treatment to fully work. For the meantime,
I don't know why, if we've got filings and everything on this, I don't know why we're reading tweets unless these were submitted as exhibits to the court case, but okay.
it's awful managing the mood swings and pain. And I understand this. I understand this completely. And so I'm sympathetic to this. And I understand that there may be some other things going in there with BPD or bipolar disorder, something I'm very familiar with. And I get that. I completely get that. She says, thank you to everyone for being so kind to me while I deal with this. I'm sorry for crying on stream. Well, I did that today. Sometimes it's harder holding it in, but I'm hoping by summer it's going to go a lot better to hang in there. It's tough. I get it. It's tough. And what does Tectone say? He says, I will never understand how much this must hurt you, but proud you're fighting through it. And this is not the language I would see of an abusive partner or someone's hurting or someone's out there to get somebody, but someone who
Just the public tweets, bro. This is what we're going on. Verse, like, okay.
really genuinely wants to help and genuinely cares. So Pikachu's filings regarding Freem are contradictory. She had filings regarding Freem to get her information taken down because Freem called her a house wrecker, called her all sorts of things, filmed her again without her consent, engaging in sexual activities with Tectone. Once again, several civil and potentially criminal violations regarding Pikachu and Tectone that were committed by Freem, and Pikachu filed to stop those, which is to me contradictory. And it seems like this may be by sexual activities with Tectone. Once again, several partners, someone's hurting or someone's out there to get somebody, but someone who really genuinely wants to help and genuinely cares. So Pikachu's filings regarding Freem are contradictory. She had filings regarding Freem to get her information taken down because Freem called her a house wrecker, called her all sorts of things, filmed her again without her consent, engaging in sexual activities with Tectone. Once again, several civil and potentially criminal violations regarding Pikachu and Tectone that were committed by Freem, and Pikachu filed to stop those, which is to me contradictory. And it seems like this may be a case of what you call buyer's remorse in dating, where you go back and you say, okay, well, now that I'm out of this, this is a situation where it was buyer's remorse. I regret things I did, or I regret stuff I did, even though it was consensual at the time. And unfortunately, as I got to report to you guys, the U.S. legal system weaponizes this. It allows people to go back, regret things, and then go get protective orders, go make claims in the future when all of this should be dealt with privately. So my judgment at this moment, having reviewed the documents that are out there, is to withhold judgment for the moment pending release of further documentation evidence. We may have stuff that eventually gets unsealed or more communications that come out, more than just what Ms. Kiff is trying to put out to paint some sort of narrative. In a post-debt world, we all need to account for all the evidence taken as a whole before concluding somebody is ripe for cancellation, right? Ms. Kiff releasing these documents clearly does.
What does this have to do with cancellation, with the legal thing? Is this facts from a lawyer about legal stuff, or is this just some ass-pained man who had to fucking flee to Southeast Asia to fuck women that couldn't hear how retarded he is because they don't speak his language, and he just flash $20 bills around? This is the guy, we're just getting his social commentary? Is that...
us to take pressure off his case, which contains evidence of abusive communications. Now, I'm not saying Ms. Kiff is guilty yet. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt too. He's going to have his day in court. But if all he's got is throwing a plushie, that's not going to do enough to get away from all the accusations. And first and foremost, I also think that intimate partner relations are very personal and private. Things can get heated between partners. And you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be dragging this out to the court of public opinion and trying to sue people to make these things right. Maybe.
Well, why did she sue him? What was the initial thing for?
We should handle these things privately as adults between two people. Right now,
I wonder if he had that opinion about my court case. He didn't, by the way. Spoiler alert.
Judgment is withheld, but we'll get back. What do you guys think in the comments below? What do you think about Tectone, the Eggman, and what's going on with him? I'll catch you on the next.
And then he cries. I don't know if I can watch a 3. Well, let's see. Because I've got documents. Maybe if our documents start at the same spot, then maybe it's worth it. The earliest document that I have is filed on the 5th day of November in 2025. But it's referring to an order filed on, or an order granted on August 21st, 2025. So there must be earlier ones. Let's see. Oh, Jesus.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Low, man.
With the text right. Stone Files Part freaking 2. And today we've got 225. Hold on. Let me just make sure I get this right. We've got a 2-page document, and then we've got a 225-page document to go through today. 225-page document. There will not be a fast facts that fully covers all this. You've got to watch the live to get all of this. It's a necessary evil, right? To get to this. This is going to be a marathon stream. Maybe go 2 hours, 3. We'll see. 2-3 hours till we get through all this. Yeah. These are all new documents. These have not been seen anywhere else. So anybody doing analysis on this has not seen this, and they do not have all the evidence. They do not have all the information. So the being one, this is the disclosure of the transcript for the hearing on the protective order. I've also got confidential polygraph results that I obtained that are very telling, very, very telling with analysis of this. So